Welcome everybody back to Chicago Reacts. I'm Zach, an actor here in Chicago, joined by my good friend
Michael. I'm also an actor here in Chicago, and we've been checking out some Warhammer content. Bricky has been helping us out. We're going through his series of every single Warhammer 40k faction explained. We are in part 2, and we are going to finish it up. So this is our 3rd installment, checking out Bricky's content.
This is it. Last time with Bricky.
Checking out some orcs.
My screen's gone red! That means I'm super fast!
Orcs, 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 orcs. I fucking love orcs. So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40k. The orcs are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc. Big orc knows best. You win the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because the orc dead. Orcs, they scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. Good. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Orcs, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard, and it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids, maybe more. Who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together. That makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works.
They have great
Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc,
do.
and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a WH is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip.
Oh, that looks so cool.
I have never met
I love that idea. On the tabletop there.
I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything, from the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't,
That is hilarious.
They
That's
lose.
cool. I'm loving
That's
that
what
he
you get when you
finally
play orcs.
started talking about
That's
some
what
of the
happens when
tabletop
you play
mechanics.
orcs.
Yeah,
Waiting for
that's
it.
cool.
Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're gonna have fun and you want to be stupid and you want to be silly, you're gonna play some.
I think
damn
I'd probably
orcs.
play
I'd
Orcs.
probably- yeah.
The way
That's
he
the fun
describes
part of
it.
this.
Yeah, it
Let's talk
sounds
about the
like my
Necrons.
style. Ooh, the Necrons.
The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again.
Spooky,
They have a
scary
much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators.
Oh,
and
nice.
they still looked that way, but then they actually
Back
had
in
a
the day,
story.
back in the
So
day,
way back
that's
in the
all
day,
they were.
We had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and to stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings. And they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the Old Ones said, piss off. Not really. They were a lot more humble about it. But they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well and waged war with them.
Yeah.
Kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or the Catan. These Star Gods were also very much like Old Ones, almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey,
very cool.
can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes, and in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact
But like,
with
at what
Skeleton.
price?
to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap, and the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan
Lord.
fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will.
Nice. Some
And then
undead
with their newfounded
robot
Necron
slaves.
army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these Old Ones. The old ones did their best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldari and the Orcs, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the old ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed. Full-on 100% genocide. However, during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences. Doesn't matter. The Catan,
We're going to fight each other.
they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Orcs. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now, at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with.
Whoa,
pretty
that
cool.
looks
The
sweet.
Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs I was remade. Here my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug. Trazen the Infinite especially. Little dickhead. But speaking of dickheads, last race. Let's talk the Tau.
We made a fucking Wookiee.
The exact formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40k world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. They thought, nah, dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire.
Very cool.
They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo. where they have the overarching prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit. But then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his
Just like
inadequacies.
the good guys of the
Only
whole
then will he accept his
world,
fate.
it feels like.
That's the impression that I'm
That
kind
is
of getting.
generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles
very
and rail
cool.
guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy
do
rail
like a
rifles
giant
and
mech.
rail guns and burst cannons,
Giant mechs are
ionic
where it's at,
accelerators,
yeah.
void shields, and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer. And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate. And a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective. But as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40k universe very well. They lack that super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time, because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow,
especially from someone
in fall. You should
deep
only
within
be
the lore
playing
and
what you
fandom to
think
be
is
like,
cool. You like the
yo,
look.
you should
like
just get
the
excited about
models.
this stuff
If
'cause
you're
it's
talking
cool.
tabletop, that is what
And
you
that's-
should be going
yeah,
for.
I think
every
always
time is
important in
what you
fandom.
think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting. Every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, is anything you could take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like it so much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been informative to you. If you'd like to see more of me, Bricky, you have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams. You have my merchandise site, in which I was wearing all of my merch, but underneath this, because I had to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description. Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful. So Twitch, merch, Patreon, anything if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it.
Check it out,
If not,
Bricky. We
I'm
appreciate you
stoked
taking
got
us
all the way to
through
the end of the video, and that is enough
some
for me.
Warhammer factions.
So, we're going to be having some more content like this out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking around this long and being with me through this pretty rough time. that's I think all I got.
Yeah, it was cool to learn about.
Let's give Bricky a
Yeah,
little
thanks,
hand.
Bricky. We really appreciate it. It was cool to learn so much about like the rich lore and all the different factions. It's interesting having seen like all of the different factions now to like look back at the humans and go like, yeah, they're evil, but I kind of get it. Like when you have the Drukhari and the Chaos Gods, like you have all these other forces sort of raining on them. It's like, I can see where things just get twisted and get dark. I mean, and I feel like that's even with the last race that we learned about. It's like, oh, they're nice and shiny and good because they haven't existed for very long. But just wait 1,000 years, and they're gonna be just as bad as everybody else.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought because I mean, even the human race, like everybody started from a normal standpoint. The elders were at one point happy they had everything. And eventually it's amazing how time can change and alter people. I mean, just all in all, like the fact that we got all of that information about the universe in 2 hours with Bricky is pretty cool. We just went on a little journey for sure. Well, do you have a favorite faction, you think? Or?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think that's what's cool. It's like thinking about the factions. I feel like there are factions for everybody. Like there is something about each faction where you're like, ooh, I can totally get into that, or ooh, I would love to explore this. And I'm sure like I would bounce around to a couple different ones. Like the Space Marines, I think are cool. I also think the Orcs are awesome.
Yeah.
And the Drukhari are so weird and twisted. I'm like, okay, I need to learn more about that because it's just weird. It's like, but it's cool and interesting. I totally understand how you get sucked into this world because it is so vast and there's so much room to create and explore. Right. And it's really cool to get opened up into that, even just like cracking the shell on that egg essentially is all we've done, but it's really cool. And I appreciate Bricky for taking us through some of that.
Yeah. And I guess a little preview for you guys. We actually are going to be reacting to some fan videos that are in the Warhammer universe. So it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into that side as well. We've been told by Daniel that everything in the Warhammer universe is considered canon. So it's very unique in that sense. And I think that starting with this and getting a sense of the universe, how it works, the different races, I think was perfect. So going forward, we are going to be able to enjoy the videos going forward that much more.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments, like, what is your favorite faction, or what is
100%.
Some of the lore that you just love. And make sure to like and subscribe so you can tune in to those future videos we're going to be working on.
Orcs and sisters for me. Let me just drop a church on you.
The sisters, yes. Oh my God, I almost forgot about the sisters.
Thanks again, guys. We'll see you soon.